Yo, Trojan family, what's up? Welcome back to the USC LAFB show here on the LAFB network. I'm your host, Ryan Dyrud, live from the Dyrud Dojo. Day 2 of USC spring practice just wrapped up here on the USC Trojans campus. Beautiful morning, little cloud cover, little cooler temperatures. Felt great out there this AM, but the action on the field was red hot, at least what we could see, at least what we were able to watch. Always just fun to be out there, blessed to be out there. But some good stuff to talk about today with all of you. On the channel right now, we have interviews with Floyd Boucard and Braylon Shelby up. You can check that out. I have our what we saw and heard videos. So guys walking out of the tunnel, some of the individual drills, you can witness some of the guys in action. So that is up on the channel if you want to check that out, just so you can kind of feel a little bit of the vibe of practice. I will have 2 recruiting updates up later, one kind of from practice today with visitors that were here and kind of where their recruitment lies with USC, and another just kind of overarching kind of visitors for the week and kind of some trending players that are kind of coming out of the start of camp. So I'll have those up later today. Plus 7 p.m. tonight live. We will be, Tim Prangley and myself will be live talking all things spring practice, kicking off, taking your phone calls and taking your comments. So first live show we've done in a while. So hopefully see you all right here on the USC LAFB YouTube channel. Live. We'll be live on Twitter as well at Ryan Dyrud LAFB. So before we get into spring recap, quick shout out, new friends of the show, new sponsor, FanDuel. I know you've all heard of FanDuel. Got a great sports book. They've got a great daily fantasy if you want to be on that aspect of it, especially here in California. But make sure to check out FanDuel because USC LAFB is brought to you by FanDuel. But today, exciting stuff. So practice opened with a lot of special teams drills. We're seeing the Mike Ekeler effect taking place. And Coach Riley talked about it yesterday when talking about, the draw to bring Mike Ekeler over. And this was all, not news, I guess. This is pretty, known, but basically saying like, hey, this is a unit that we did some things really well, some things we did not do well. Now, because Ryan Doherty, remember, is not going anywhere. He was kind of the de facto special teams coordinator last year, but really he's like a specialist guy. And USC has been phenomenal in the specialist department. You're talking about Ray Guywinner, Eddie Ziglippy. You're talking about what we saw from Ryan Sayeri, just last season, coming out of nowhere and what he's been able to do. So Ryan Doherty with the specialist has been a good thing, and he will continue doing that. Mike Ekeler takes on the role of the rest of the special teams, which we've talked about a lot. Like, hey, how do you make that a weapon and not a hold your breath kind of deficiency thing? You actually turn it into a positive. So that was the big draw with Ekeler. Obviously, the linebacking stuff, which we'll talk about later. But we're seeing this is just day 2 of practice, but a heavy emphasis on different special teams drills to kick off practice. Offensive players, defensive players, tackling, technique, fundamentals. These are things that Ekeler talked about in his press conference. Like, we're going to teach technique and fundamentals. So in these special teams moments, you're not thinking, you're just sticking on your path, sticking on your job, and doing it with physicality. And so that's what they're practicing, and that's what they've been preaching. Now we'll hopefully see it in fruition once the season starts out. So great to see that. In terms of return game, this will be, we're spring, guys. This will be a very fluid thing. But when you look at punt return, some of the guys kind of taking reps back there right now are Trent Mosley, which to me is probably going to be the guy in my opinion. We also have Elbert Rock Hill, certainly capable. Been at already glowing reviews of Rock Hill just overall and his footwork and his natural ability, but he's also taken some punt return reps. You also have D. Reddick back there, safety player for USC. And then also Terrell Anderson, transfer wide receiver, taking some reps. But like I said, I feel like it'll be Trent Mosley likely, but it is March, 4th? We got a long way to go for that. So we will see. Nice to see my car locking up on me there. I'm probably bumping the button here in my pocket. Beauty of being in the dojo, right? So there's your kind of special team stuff. We'll see more kind of what kick return and when they kind of get more flow into that and whatnot. But, expect a combination of Mosley, Rock Hill, kind of some of those guys. This is a good opportunity for freshmen to get early reps, even though I think both of those guys will probably get reps on the offensive, defensive side of the ball as well. Other stuff, we were mostly able to watch defense today. So again, all we watch is individuals, so we don't get to see any real team action. So yesterday we saw a lot of receivers and passing, and Caden Dixon Wyatt was kind of the talk of the practice. And I talked about, hey, this is a guy I think we've talked about a while. He could easily get a lot of reps as a true freshman receiver. Corey Sims is a guy that's really balling out, showing out. Mark Bowman, obviously. Today was a lot more defensive focus that we were able to witness. And one thing I wanted to emphasize, I don't need to just bore you with like, oh, they were doing this drills and this guy looked big and yada, yada. But Paul Gonzalez, along with Sam Carter, specializing with safeties, right? This is not a knock on Doug Belk. I think you all know how I feel about Doug Belk and his coaching ability, but you can tell an immediate difference. The vocalization and the vocalization of details is very inherent from Paul Gonzalez. Like they were doing certain drills out there. You can watch on the what we saw and heard video, if you want to see it in action. But really emphasizing safety play closer to the line of scrimmage and kind of reading what the quarterback is doing, whether it's a run, pass, option, the RPO moniker, like if the quarterback's keeping it, if he's handing it off, and how as a safety do you read that, not over pursue, not reading correctly, which then gets you in bad situations like we saw USC in a lot last year with guys over pursuing or not having gap integrity, or just reading the play wrong altogether. And you get a busted play that goes for, 15, 16, 17, 20 plus yards. So the emphasis on the details and vocalizing that. I mean, we're talking about safeties. Do it again. Do it again. Don't make your decision until you see what's happening. Like that was the concerted effort. That was the concerted, jargon and teaching and coaching from both Paul Gonzalez and Sam Carter, who, guys, I got to tell you, this was a home run addition. Sam Carter is a guy who's been a cornerback coach and a safeties coach at the, not just D1 level, at the Power 4 level. And USC was able to get him basically as an assistant safeties coach slash analyst. So he's like the right-hand man to Paul Gonzalez, who's the right-hand man of Gary Patterson to really bring out the vision along with obviously the rest of the staff. And, we're in spring. You guys know I like to hype things up. But I think just watching that and the details being taught for a situation that we saw kind of get overlooked, not overlooked necessarily, but we saw that a lot in games come to play. Safeties over pursuing, or just not even safeties, but just players in general not reading the play right in the backfield. If you don't read the play right in the backfield, it's going to be really hard to stop it, down the field. You got to know if it's a run, if it's a pass, like if the quarterback's rolling out, you got to be able to read that quickly. And so putting the details and the onus on that, I think, is great to see. We're day 2 in spring, but it's a good detail, I think, to note in that secondary that I think we should see a vast improvement from safety play, which is interesting because when you look at the safety room, right, cornerback room is loaded with talent. Loaded with talent. When you talk about even guys returning, when you talk about Jontez Williams, transferring over, when you talk about all the freshmen coming in with Rock Hill, and then obviously RJ Sermons from last year, returning Marcellus Williams, quarterback room is loaded. I mean, they have probably, and we'll see how it plays out, but they have really realistically 4 to 5 guys that can easily start, come fall time. The safety room, you have your incumbents of Christian Pierce and Kennedy Urlacher, but what's even the ceiling with those guys? And that's not meant as a negative whatsoever. But it's not like last year, okay, Kamari Ramsey, Bishop Fitzgerald. Yeah, those are your locked in starters. There's a lot of experience between those two guys. There's a lot of talent between those two guys. Like the safety room this year is a lot more wide open, and it's a lot more wide open. There's also just a lot more unknown kind of talent, even behind the top 2 guys, right? Like you Peyton Dyer, who was recruited as a defensive back, he'll be in that, or he is in that safety room. They move Prophet Brown for now, who he's kind of always seen as a nickel. He's in that safety room, which doesn't mean he can't play nickel still, certainly. Sam Carter also helping with nickels. So they've kind of transformed this safety nickels, kind of the pseudo position. So Prophet Brown, that Alex Graham also in that, who we saw as the nickel last year, but he's like in the safety room. I think a guy to watch out for, and this is just from visualizing individuals and hearing the coaches talk, Isaiah Rubin and Marquise Gallegos look like they are picking things up rather quickly at least in the individuals. That doesn't tell everything. That doesn't tell scrimmaging and obviously knowing play calls and play design, but at least in simple, fundamental individuals, Isaiah Rubin and Marquise Gallegos, I think, had a really solid day today in what they were able to kind of carry out fundamentally what Coach Gonzalez was implementing. So safety room is going to be a fascinating room to watch, but it was really fun to watch Paul Gonzalez and his teaching methods and his coaching methods and his communication, which is so huge in the Gary Patterson defense. Last kind of thing I'll say, Gary Patterson, I mean, you can just tell how pumped he is to be back on a football field, right? Like Dan Lamb was a great defensive coordinator. I think he is a great defensive coordinator. I think he'll become even a better defensive coordinator. But he was just much more methodical in his process. You didn't hear much of him. Like he was always coaching. I don't want anyone to misread or misquote or mishear what I'm saying. But just much more kind of methodical in his process. I think a lot of it was probably more behind the scenes. Like he was kind of a visual, taking notes of what's going on and then kind of teach and correct kind of on the whiteboard and stuff like that. Gary Patterson was going group to group, linebackers, safeties, DBs or corners, linemen. And every moment he was there, he'd stop the play. He'd explain why they were doing things the way they were doing it, kind of map out exactly this is what I want to see, and then basically passing it off to the position guy to, okay, carry that out. So very hands-on and very instructional, which is so big, I think, with this defensive coaching staff as it currently is constructed. Not saying they didn't instruct last year or the previous years, not anything like that, but you can tell the communication piece and the demonstration piece 2 days into spring camp is something that I've just noticed. So I think that's a very good thing. And you notice that too, kind of, just across the board in general. So a great day out here at spring camp. Like I said, we talked to Floyd Bacard, we talked to Braylon Shelby, we talked to Cam Fountain, and we talked to Kennedy Urlacher after practice. So you can see 2 of those interviews up right on this channel. But yeah, excitement in the air. A lot of good things, I think, for this program. I'll be back on Friday, day off tomorrow. So Friday we'll be back on campus. I believe, I'll confirm this, but I believe it's the first padded practice is on Friday. So we'll be hearing a lot more pads popping, and I think we'll see a lot of excitement, and I think we'll see a lot of reflection after practice of kind of how that first padded practice went. So a lot of good things. Great size. I talked a lot about size yesterday, but a good day 2 of spring camp here at USC. Like I said, we'll have multiple recruiting videos up later today, plus live tonight at 7 p.m. Myself, Tim Prangley, right here on the USC LAFB YouTube channel. So make sure to hit that like and subscribe. And as always, family, fight on.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.